Welcome to Cheese in Depth webinars. I'm Michael Landis, and today we are meeting with Marieke. Today's Meet the Cheesemaker segment is sponsored by the great folks at the Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. With over 1,200 licensed cheesemakers in the only state that requires a license to make cheese, they are also the only place outside of Europe with a master cheesemakers program. Today I'm talking with Marieke from Holland Family Farms, who is also a licensed cheesemaker. She was born and raised in the Netherlands. Marieke grew up on her parents' 60-cow dairy farm, and that's where her passion started for dairy cows. After getting her bachelor's degree in dairy business, she started a career as a farm inspector. In the meantime, her future husband, Rolf Penterman, immigrated to Thorpe, Wisconsin, starting a 350-cow dairy farm with his brother in May in 2002. Marieke decided to follow Rolf in 2003, and once in the States, she started to miss the cheese from back home and looked at starting her own business. She decided to get her Wisconsin cheesemaking licenses, working with a local cheesemaker as well as ones from her home country. Just 4 months after her first batch of Gouda cheese, they captured a golden award in the U.S. cheese competition in 2007. Many more followed, and Marieke was titled last year as the first woman to receive the Grand Master Cheesemaker title at the Wisconsin State Fair. So I'd like to take this time to welcome Marieke with us this afternoon.
Hey folks, thank you for joining this. Thank you, Michael, for the introduction. I don't think there's much more to say about it, but I will still try it, of course. I think we'll start out with a little video, and I'm very excited to have you here on the call and talk about our cheese. And we're sitting here outside on our farm. We are a farmstead cheese, and I will tell you more about it later. But let's do first a little video.
Exceptional milk makes extraordinary cheese. At Marieke Gouda, we pride ourselves on treating our cows with love and respect. It's who we are. The girls relax in our cow spa, a spacious freestyle barn complete with massages. In return, we get full-flavored rich milk. We add our signature ingredients and spices to create an authentic old-world Gouda. Food makes memories when shared with friends and a drink. Try it yourself and enjoy the Marieke Gouda experience.
Well, thank you for the little video. So that's a little introduction. I also want to introduce you here to my left and right hand, Laurie. Laurie here actually rolls out the cheese through the whole United States. So if it's correct, you should find our Marieke Gouda in your local supermarket, wherever you shop. But if you don't, after this presentation, you're going to be a Marieke Gouda ambassador. So then you should go to your local supermarkets, and if you don't find it, just complain about it. So for the ones that have not noticed it, and for the ones that have noticed it, apparently you have not mastered the Wisconsin accent yet. That's because I'm born and raised in a little tiny country in Europe called the Netherlands. I grew up on my parents' dairy farm. We had about 60 cows, and my whole education is in the dairy industry. But in 2002, I traveled half the world to Wisconsin because I heard of the great people over here. And after a while, I was starting to miss my cheese. I would go to our local supermarkets and I would find all these beautiful Colbys and Cheddars and more cheeses that I actually ever saw in the Netherlands, but I could not find good Gouda. So on the other hand, I really wanted to start my own business before I turned 30, and the clock was ticking. So after one night, I was tossing and turning and thinking, from what could I start? I heard a cow calving, and I always say with the birth of that calf, that was also the birth of our cheese adventure. And the next day, I called around and came in contact with Norm Munson from the Dairy Business Innovation Center, and he helped me out with getting in contact with people that could help us, like with a lender and the dairy business and the marketing side. But he also told me to go and get my cheesemaker's license. So apparently, Wisconsin is the only state on planet Earth that is actually requiring a cheesemaker's license. So I went back to school, and I had to do a 240-hour apprenticeship by a licensed cheesemaker, and that's where I learned how to make Colby and cheddar. but that's not what I wanted. I wanted to make Gouda. So I traveled back to the Netherlands, worked along with a lady that had 10 cows. And actually, she had a wooden cheese vat at that time still. So it was very authentic and it was really great to see. So I had one day with her and then did one day with a larger dairy farmer that had 200 cows. And it was fun to see how the difference was between the two Gouda. So a Gouda is a water wash curd. So one Gouda, she would make it with two. She would wash the curds 2 times. And the bigger dairy farmer would wash the curds just once. And then it would do it on a longer temperature. So that's a little bit where the difference between Gouda and Gouda comes in. Because if you try different Goudas, you will taste right away a difference. That is not only associated with different milk or with where the dairy farm is located, but it's also associated with different cultures. If you wash the curds once or twice, the temperatures that you're using or the amount of water that you're using. So that's a little bit how everybody creates their own Gouda recipe. So 22 November 2006 is the very first time that I made cheese. And within 4 months, Norm Monson called me and says, Marieke, you should enter at the US Cheese Championship. So, and within 4 months, we won a Golden Award, and that really put us on the map. We won over 161 awards, and we won over 160 plus awards. And then in 2013, we were nominated the best cheese in America. With that, actually, I was the first cheesemaker that ever got her green card, because my lawyer said, Marieke, I think we should qualify you for the extraordinary ability route. And I got qualified and I got my green card, and so I don't have to hide in basements anymore. So
which we're really happy about.
So let me see, what else can we say about our Goudas?
Well, maybe we should try some Gouda.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I'm
gonna go grab ours.
You go and grab us. So today we're gonna sample about 5 different cheeses. We have a young Gouda, and that's where we're gonna start off. Michael, maybe you want to start our PowerPoint slide or our presentation?
How about we step back a little bit and go with a little bit of your history. You have some slides on your farm?
Yes. So one of our big things here is that we are a farmstead creamery, like I said before, and that means that we milk the cows right here on the farm, where we also make the cheese. So like the first slide that you guys see is our creamery, and on the side, a little bit smaller, that's where the dairy farm is actually. That's the milking parlor. Milking parlor is where we have about 400 cows. We milk 3 times a day. We milk 5 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and 9 o'clock in the evening. So our cows get milked 3 times. Our cows roam freely in a freestyle barn. Here in Wisconsin, there are just not many suitable days for a cow to be outside. So a cow, what we ask from them to do is produce a high quality of milk. And a cow needs, in order to do that, a cow needs space, of course, but they need something where they cool, because it's like us laying on the beach, you know, how long can you maintain that on the beach? It's nice for a little bit, but for them, they produce all this heat around them when they stop producing milk. And in order for them to feel comfortable, they need shade and they need wind to cool them off. So again, it's very cold here in Wisconsin, and it can be really warm in Wisconsin too. So we believe that we can actually take better care of the cows inside of the freestyle barn, where they have shade, where we have ventilators, where we have sprinkler systems, where we have water for them, because a cow drinks a bathtub full of water every single day, and it eats a wheelbarrow full of food. So even if we would open our doors, the cows wouldn't even want to go outside. Laurie here is born and raised on a dairy farm too, so she knows how it is for a cow.
Yep, I do. So, but here we have names for all of our cows. So you guys are seeing a picture of, I believe it's Marieke's favorite cow.
Yep, Loretta. So she's quite an interesting cow. She has a cow with character. If I haven't seen her, we travel, because normally we travel a lot too, and if I haven't seen her for a while, she will give me the eye first for a little bit. So Loretta, we actually have a cow protection program. Rolf is not too thrilled about it, but we have three cows that will never leave this farm. Loretta is one of them, Susan is one of them, and Emily is one of the cows that will never leave. So Loretta is our Gouda ambassador, and because you know what the cows do, they produce milk, and it's actually it's a miracle product. It's from Mother Nature. So and then it turns into this bundle of cheese, bundle of joy that everybody should start. If you have not, let's start trying our plain Gouda.
So let's talk about the milk a little bit,
Yes.
because the milk is a raw milk, and that's, I think, what's one of the most important ingredients in our cheese.
It is, it is. So when the cows get milked in the morning at 5 o'clock, that milk goes straight from the cow through a pipe under the ground into our cheese fat. So, and then over there, it's still warm from the cow's body temperature. And then we make it within 5 hours into cheese. So I think we have a Guinness Book of Records going on there.
The other cool thing about our milk is when we transform that milk into our famous Gouda cheese, we're doing it with 3 female licensed cheesemakers.
Yeah, so when I started in 2006, the only one that, well, it was just me. And then we shortly already, Martha, that used to milk on our farm, came and joined our team. And she said, Marieke, I really want to come and help you make cheese. I said, but Martha, there's not much to do. So she came back the week after with her husband, and the week after with her whole family. She has 4 children. And so I said, before you take even your uncles and aunts, you're hired, Martha. I have no idea what you're going to do, but we'll figure it out. And I'm so glad that she came and joined the team, because cheese making is so much more work than I ever thought. And then I realized that it's very important to educate. So when we got the opportunity to move our dairy farm to a new location, I really wanted to focus on the educational part, so people can see when you come visit us, people can see how we milk the cows, how we make the cheese, how the cheese goes in the brine, how it ages. And so it's really, we get about 150, 160,000 people every year. And we would love to welcome you on our farm. I know that there are some friends over here and during the presentation that have visited us before, so I hope to see you soon again.
So part of that cheese making process, you talked about washing the curd. Do any other cheeses get their curd washed, or is it just unique to Gouda?
It is pretty unique to Gouda, but every every cheese has its own recipe. And for the ones that have been are here during this presentation, in the beginning, I always thought that Gouda was discovered in a town called Gouda, and apparently, just like Colby is discovered in Colby, and apparently that's not the case. There's not 1 pound of Gouda produced in a town called Gouda. So I want to correct that right now for the ones that I said it wrong to. But what happened is that there were a lot of farms that had creameries around the town called Gouda. And what the farmers would do is, after their cheese was ready, they would take their cheese to the farmers market, and that's where they would sell it. So that's why Gouda is called Gouda, after the town where they were selling the cheese. So, but you're right, like cheddar, what happens with cheddar compared to Gouda is that it will ripen in the whey, versus the Gouda where we drain some of the whey and then add the water to it. And then again, every Gouda cheesemaker does a little bit different. Some we play with temperatures and amount of water and how often we wash it. So.
Okay, good. The other thing that I know is unique about Gouda cheese is the self-brine that we soak it in.
That's
For
correct.
60 hours, right?
Yes. So for 2.5 hours, 2.5 days, the cheese goes in the brine. And after 2.5 days, we take it out of brine. So our cheese is very pure. It only has milk, filters, but we don't put salt in like you would do with cheddar or with Colby. But we take the wheel when it comes out of the press. We take the wheel and we put it in our racks, and we take it into a brine solution, water and salt solution. And that's where it also takes a more firmer shape, because so when I started this, I had no experience, did not know nothing about cheese. So, and putting the cheese in a brine is like my least favorite thing to do. So one evening,
I got a quick question. I don't want to get too much further, but Brad asked, what is the breed of cows that you have?
good question. So we actually have a nice mixture of everything. We have half of our herd is a black Holstein. You have red Holsteins and you have black Holsteins. It's the same breed, but one has the red spots and the other one has the black spots. Then we have a quarter of our herd is brown Swiss. Brown Swiss is the nice brown with the big fluffy ears like you saw on the sheets slide before, with the big, yes, and the cute eyes on it. They're a little bit a more outgoing breed, the brown Swiss. They have the same frame as a Holstein, a little bit bigger, but they look like Jersey. So often people confuse them with Jersey, but the brown Swiss has a bigger frame to it. So they do have a higher fat and protein. Holsteins, they produce a larger volume of milk, and whereas a brown Swiss will have a little bit more content in the milk, more fat and protein. And then a quarter of a herd is a mixture of everything. So every time a cow calves here at the Marieke Gouda farm, it's always a surprise. So yeah, so couple of the difference with making Gouda, again, it's water wash herd. Like Laurie asked too, it goes in for 2.5 days in the brine, water and salt solution. Another thing is very typical is the aging. That's where the law of rendering care happens. And so they go up to wooden shelves and they age us in our ripening room. What you see here though is a production room. And I want to talk a little bit funny. There's a fun story about it. I don't know if people know, but if you think of Gouda, often a lot of people probably say it's a red wax Gouda. We don't do red wax Gouda. It's actually a little bit more of a round yellow wheel. And we have a para coating that we brush on it, so it let the cheese breathe. The wax often are being used to protect the cheese during transportation. So when it comes from Holland over, and it also stops the cheese in aging because it's so airtight. So our Gouda is being aged under a higher temperature between 50 and 55 Fahrenheit, and it has a humidity around 75%. And then it goes, and then the round shape, you will see that the red wax Gouda has a round shape, or Gouda is very typical with the wheel shape. The reason for that is that in the earlier days when they would transport the cheese from one harbor to the other harbor, instead of walking down the plank, they would roll the cheese down. So the round wheel shape is for transportation reason. Another fun fact about Gouda is that we are here in Wisconsin, we're called cheeseheads, and I'm sure through the whole United States there are many cheeseheads. I bet everybody here right now is a cheesehead. But in Holland, we are called cheeseheads too. And that is because if you see on the previous slide in the production room, where the cheese goes into the press, the cheese gets pressed for 2 hours. So when the curd gets pumped into our drain table, that's where the first pressing happens. Then we cut a block out of it. And then the block we put in a round mold, and then it goes under the press. So it goes for 2 hours under the press, and then it gets a nice round shape. Well, in the earlier days, those plastic molds were made out of wood. And when the Dutch would go to war, they would take that and put it on their head as a helmet. I'm not sure how bulletproof it was, but we have 80 million people in Holland, so the survival rate was pretty high. But that's why the Dutch are called cheeseheads. I'm so glad to have you here because I'm so horrible in following the straight line. So if I go a little bit back and forward, I'm sorry, guys.
So one of the things that we do really well is our plain Goudas, which we age 7 different levels, the youngest being that 2 to 4 months and the oldest being 2 year plus. But the other cool thing we do is we have like 20 flavors of cheese. So let's talk about the ingredients.
Yes. I do want to start then out with that young because like we have the different ages in the Gouda, and we have a young 2 to 4. And it's partly determined by the fact that we are a farmstead raw milk producer. So that means that we do not pasteurize our milk. We don't heat up the milk. And so by law, you have to age your cheeses for 60 days. So that's the minimum or cheese you will find out there at the shelf or here in a store. Our cheese will always be 2 months old. So our first age category is 2 to 4 months old. In Holland, you could even get it with 3 weeks. That's the difference between young Gouda here and the young Gouda over there, or Unless you pasteurize, then you could offer the Gouda already at 3 weeks. But there's always a minimum aging process with the Gouda of a minimum of 3 weeks. So our Gouda has a little bit more of a bite already, even though that it's young, at a young age, because it's a little bit older. And it's still very creamy, and then as it ages, it will become more complexer as it ages. So there's always a flavor profile for anybody. So if you ever find a Gouda that you don't like, don't give up right away, because there are other Goudas out there too. And then we have the finest ingredients, because a lot of our ingredients come from the Netherlands. So the cheese that you will taste today is one of our popular one. Is also our Fenugreek Gouda. That's our first award winner, and it's a multi award winner. I don't know, I couldn't even tell you how many awards the Fenugreek already won. It's a seed that tastes a little bit nutty, but smells like maple syrup. So it's a very unique one. And I remember the very first batch that I made of Fenugreek is the night before. I had to cook the Fenugreek already for an hour and a half. And then I cooked it for 10 minutes, and then you let it stand for overnight, and then you add it to it. But while I cooked it in my kitchen, I'm like, I don't know, this smells really bad. It smelled bitter. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna add this. So I told Rolf too, I said, I don't think I'm gonna add this to my cheese tomorrow. And he says, don't waste it, just try it. So we did, and that's the award winner right away, because it's so funky how bitter as it smells when you cook it, how sweet and nutty it tastes when you try it. Some other flavors we have here today too is our smoked cumin. The cumin is also from the Netherlands. We let it ship over. The Fenugreek we kind of source now in America. I have to say that because we had so much trouble by custom to get it through, because they had it confused with a different seed, and I tried to explain it, but it did not work, unfortunately. So we had to source it in America, and we get it from somewhere else too. So, but the cumin is from Holland. Our summer fields is made with 70% of rosemary. And I think it's both one of our favorites. Yeah, we love it. So
that's why it's in your package.
That's why it's in your packet. So you guys have a very nice selection. I want to add on to the smoked cumin earlier this year, we had the World Cheese Competition going on in Madison, and we ended up in the top 20 of the world. And how many entries were there?
Oh, geez,
there were a lot of entries. I think 4,500 entries from all over the world, like over 30 countries. And to compete even against the Goudas from Holland, to beat the Dutch is always kind of sweet. Didn't tell them over there though. So yeah, it's always fun to be up in the top 20, but our goal is to be world champion someday. So.
Yep, it looks like this is our little cutting demo. So if you have your pie cut,
because we did it too. I never cut it this way, Michael. So thank you for the suggestion.
So the easiest way to cut your wedge of cheese is to cut it in half and then slice it, and then you'll have perfect little wedges for complementing your cheese tray or just eating with your favorite beverage. So here's ours. Marieke did it. Michael, did you cut yours the same way?
I haven't even started cutting mine. I thought I'd wait for you guys and then start cutting along with you, because right now is really a great time to be able to start with these 5 cheeses. And I also believe that you have some frosty beverages as well.
We do. We brought it.
And we already start digging into it, so I'm sorry. So cheers, everybody.
That's
this is not our beer, but this is a new Glarus beer, and it's starting to get more famous through the United States. We have Spotted Cow, and maybe it's just because of the name of it, but it's really good.
It's our favorite.
Yeah, and then I got a Kid Coles or something. So it's unique to Wisconsin, and I hope to welcome you all to sample some cheese and drink a beer that's true to Wisconsin also.
Well, when I was up there with you, we drank our fair amount of Spotted Cow together. All right, so let's take a look at our first cheese, which is going to be the Young Gouda.
So that Young Gouda is going to be super creamy, it's buttery, mild with sweet notes. So this is our plain Gouda recipe. This is where it all starts before we start aging it out to older time frames and before we start adding delicious ingredients. So here you go, Marieke. Michael, what would you pair with the young Gouda?
Well, you know, with the young Gouda, I think staying with something really simple because it has so much flavor. It's got a lot of butter to it. It's got a little bit of nuttiness. I'm just going to do something little simple, and I'm going to squirt a little bit of honey on this to give it a little bit more sweetness and flavor.
It's good.
I have to say, I kind of blew my own mind with this one. Very good.
Honey works really well. It's just adds a little bit. There's so much butter here. The creaminess, the richness that you have, that if you add something a little bit sweeter, it picks up a little bit more of the tanginess that you get in the young Goudas. As they age, you know, they get a lot more maple caramel, but taking advantage of this slight tang by adding a little bit there really brings that up. And I'm going to pair this up with a Pilsner.
Oh, yeah. That would be really good. I have an ale here, and it's really good.
So yeah, I decided that traditionally, you know, you have a tremendous amount of history with Goudas. And so bringing out one of the original Pilsner is Pilsner Urquell. And it's just a really, really simple, easy Pilsner, but with the slight tanginess that you have, all the amount of butter that's with this, this gives it a nice cleansing. Plus it's got that bready-like quality. So you're kind of adding in a little bit of its own biscuit. You know, this is liquid bread, so, you know, they go real well.
Yummy. And the thing is also with our Gouda, because it's a farmstead and you've tasted, especially the young one, we don't standardize our milk, which means that often at creameries, they would take the milk to a certain fat level, but we take the milk as it is from the dairy farm, and so it's full fat, and it gives this full flavor too.
I'm not sure if we mentioned this, but 5 hours after the first milking is when we make our first batch of cheese. So it's super fresh.
I have some rustic bakery. This is just olive oil and a little bit of sea salt. And this is another thing with having it so much butter, having that sweet saltiness is also really nice, along with the cleansing part of the beer.
Yes. Another thing with our young Gouda is that it's great with the grilled cheese sandwich. I just over at lunchtime, my daughter asked one for a grilled cheese, so I always use the younger cheeses there because they melt better due to the protein connection. And so young cheese is wonderful because where you see where all the cheeses just kind of evaporates a little bit more. Younger cheese, if you can cook it on lasagna, shredded over tacos, or smoked cumin. We'll talk about it later when you try it, but great over tacos or chili. So Goudas are great to do it with any recipe. So.
Okay. Fabulous cheese, and such a great way to be able to start with this. You know, you can have this for breakfast, lunch, dinner. You can snack on this. This really goes with everything, being that it's not as complicated as a lot of the others, and without all the flavors, it really lends itself well to just being a nice snacking cheese. So really love this. One of my favorites.
Yeah, and before we go to the next one, I want to give you this little recipe hint already for the next one, and that's so you can, while you taste it, can already imagine it, but shred it up or cubed up in a pancake batter, and then make the pancake and then drizzle maple syrup over it.
Well, I added a little bit of the honey to it because you add a little bit of sweetness like that, and it really brings out the buttery flavors of the cheese.
Wonderful.
All right, let's go ahead and go to our next cheese.
This is the Fenugreek. So this is the one that won our very first award. And this is the one that's going to taste a little sweet and
Smell it first.
taste a little bit like maple syrup.
Cheers.
Cheers. So this is the cheese. This has always been my personal favorite cheese. This is why I work
This
here.
is how I got you.
So, yeah, this is
right?
why I work here. Fenugreek.
We did a lot with the Fenugreek, I can tell you. We got the best people with the Fenugreek cheese. I think we even paid some advertising in the beginning when cash flow was low, a little bit lower. We would ask them, would you take some Fenugreek?
So the Fenugreek is one of those cheeses that like your customers aren't really going to know what it is. So if you have a retail business, you want to sample this cheese when we can get back to sampling, and it's almost a guaranteed sale.
Yeah.
So whenever we do demos, we always demo the Fenugreek because it's a guaranteed sale for the store.
And there's so many fun stories with the Fenugreek. We have customers that come in the store because Fenugreek, we had holes that we had not enough supply of the Fenugreek. It took off, and people would come in and they would get really upset. Like, how do you mean there's no Fenugreek? You know, when do you have it available? I always would think they would just take off and I would never see them again. We said, okay, we'll come back then.
You have to tell the story about the dog.
Yeah.
This is a great story.
So even my family loves the Fenugreek. So the kids were just, Mom, where's the, well, we really want Fenugreek. And actually I really wanted Fenugreek too. So I went to some of our local stores, but they were all out of Fenugreek too. So the kids had to go to a dentist, and across of the dentist is also the radio is there. So they have a little, the radio station has a little cheese store in front of it, and said, well, let's go and check it out if they have Fenugreek. I said, but Mom doesn't want to be recognized. I don't want them to think that our business is going bad and I have to buy my own cheese in stores around it to make it look good. So I had my hoodie up, you know, I told the kids, well, just make yourself small. We'll just go in and look. And there was one pie cut of Fenugreek Gouda. So I'm like, oh, this is going good. I don't think anybody's recognizing me here. So I'm checking out. And as I walk out with that one piece of Fenugreek, the lady behind goes, till next time, Marieke. I'm like, oh, dang it. Okay. But we got home. We got our Fenugreek. We got our pie cut of Fenugreek. I'm cutting it up. Kids super excited. They run upstairs, put on their pajamas. I go into the living room. I set it on a table, coffee table. I walk out to grab the drinks. And I didn't thought of it, but here goes Buddy, our dog. He goes into the living room while I go into the kitchen. And when I come out of the kitchen to the living room, the dog crosses me again. And I come to the coffee table and the Fenugreek is gone. And I'm like, kids? And yeah, and they go, what? And I hear them upstairs. I'm like, okay, it's not the kids. Buddy took off with our Fenugreek. Apparently our dog loves our Fenugreek Gouda too. So that was a bad evening for the dog. He was really in the doghouse.
Pairing it up with some dark chocolate, adding a little bit of that flavor. Because you have all that maple, again, having something that's just a little less sweet to bring out more of the maple, a little bit of the chocolate or dark chocolate in that. And then as for beverages, I'm actually pairing this up with the Blue Moon, and this is their iced coffee blonde. And to be able to add a little bit of that kind of flavor in there is really unique in a way, as it brings more richness across the board. You have the maple, you have the coffee, you have the chocolate. So it's really, really fun.
Those are great combinations.
Yes.
I never thought about adding the chocolate.
The chocolate is really good. Somebody at a cheese event, there was a chocolate fondue across of us. And
Okay.
they used our Fenugreek in their chocolate fondue.
Nice.
And don't forget about the pancake recipe. That's really good too.
Mm-hmm. We also use the Fenugreek in like a smashed red potato.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? That was
Mhm.
really good.
That was really good. And I'm wondering, we also have a grilled cheese recipe with the Fenugreek.
Yep.
And then bacon and then jalapeno mayo, I think, is on it. So really good.
Be creative.
That's great. All right. Anything else on the cheese? What are you
Like that.
drinking with it?
Oh, yeah, I should open another beer actually. I only have beers. Okay, we have, I'm gonna try now. I'm gonna take the Moon Man, and the Moon Man is a pale ale. Which one are you trying?
I'm gonna go for,
Totally Naked.
yep, totally naked.
All
And
right.
that would, I don't know. I don't know what a Totally Naked is.
I don't know either. I'll try.
It's a beer, it says.
Yeah.
The pale's having a little bit of hoppiness in there. I think that the hoppiness, kind of like that pine or citrus, should work well.
Yep.
All right.
Good.
All right. While you're
So,
contemplating the next or the beer, let's go ahead and move on to our next.
So this one is our summer fields. This one is kind of a little hidden treasure. Even though the name is summer fields, we do offer this cheese year round, but this cheese is very herbaceous. And that's a fun word. It has rosemary, thyme, there's a little tomato, onion, and garlic in this cheese. It's just a burst of flavor when you try it. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and it's really,
Oh, it smells amazing.
yeah, and it would be great with bread. I don't know if we have some bread bakers here during the session, but that melted over bread, or I just imagine freshly baked bread and melted over with some summer fields with the rosemary. Oh, it's just wonderful. And dipped in some oil.
Yep, that would be very good. Like, I'm curious, what kind of wine would you pair with like an herbaceous cheese?
I'm sorry?
What kind of wine would you pair with an herbaceous cheese? Do you know?
Well,
Off the top of your head?
you can kind of go with the same theory on that of the earthy grassiness. You know, so you could go with like a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, and so they would kind of blend really together. But also you could do something a little sweeter, which will also calm things down a little bit. If you're looking at reds or whites, you know, if you're looking at, really want to do a white or a red wine with this, I'd probably say something like an Italian, like a Moscato d'Asti or a Barbera d'Asti, and or you could even go with a Chianti. You know, because you want to kind of match up a little bit of that earthy grassiness. I'm actually going with a beer from 610 Brewing, which is a local brewery around here, and it's called Babble of the Nag, and it is an IPA with vanilla and rosemary in it. So I thought, you know, how fun would that be to kind of put those guys together, get a little bit of the rosemary going on, and try with that. Actually, not try. I did this earlier, and I really love the way that they kind of blend together, because the vanilla again brings out more of the vanilla butter, and the rosemary.
I feel like we're in heaven right now.
I know. It's warm here. The sun is out. And we're eating cheese and drinking beer.
Michael, just a random question. Do you know what the average age is of a person in the United States?
Oh, what?
What the average, how do you say it? Do I say it right? The average age of a person in the United States is?
No, I don't.
38.2.
Really?
Yeah. That's very low. Doesn't it sound very low?
It does sound low.
I think I will have to double test that. Okay. But anyway, the average person in Wisconsin is way higher, 39.1.
Ah.
But I do have to double check because this doesn't sound good. So anyway, you can look it up. The average person of in Wisconsin is higher. Could it be from the cheese, because of the cheese?
I think it's totally because of the cheese. And probably some beer too.
It's not because of the weather, so I
No,
know
it's
that's
not.
for
Well,
sure.
I don't know. Maybe the cold weather preserves us.
Oh my God, I do.
Uh,
The ages it doesn't seem right, but I know
All right,
that
so-
the Wisconsin person has a higher average age than
Yeah.
American.
So what beer do you have with this one?
I still have the Moon Man, an ale,
I'm
Oh,
totally making.
and it tastes really good. We could open another one, a lager. I think we could do. I think this is a
A lager
lager.
probably.
We're gonna do the Two Women, and that's a lager. So we're gonna open that one up and we're gonna
Okay.
try.
Lagers are nice for the fact that you get a nice cleanliness. It really helps with the palate. And when you have a cheese like this with all of that rosemary, all of that butter, all the flavors, it's really well balanced. There are cheeses that have rubs on them. They have rosemary on the exterior, but having this on the inside and having it intermix with the buttery flavors is really amazing. This would be something, stuffing a chicken with this, or
Oh yeah.
or putting it on top of a chicken taco would be really just amazing with the flavor characteristic of having that, giving it that herbiness that I think would really kind of speak out, give it a different flavor. We're always looking for something to do take a traditional recipe and spin it a little differently, and this cheese fits right in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great on, I think lasagna would be a really good one too.
Oh yeah. It's like a chicken lasagna.
Oh
Be
yeah.
very good.
Mm.
Yeah.
But
Very
if you-
nice.
People do try it with a beer or a wine. I think it's very important to make sure you have it on room temperature. The cheese should always be on room temperature to get the fullest flavor out of it.
That is true. That is true. I was fortunate enough to have this out and have a little bit of heat from the lights here. So I have a nice creamy cheese. All right. So let's look at what we're going to do next, which I believe is going to be one of my all-time favorites, getting a little bit of age in the cheese.
That's right. So go ahead. No, you go ahead.
So this is our golden, and our golden is an American original. And what that means is it's not necessarily a Gouda, and it's not necessarily a Parmesan, but Marieke took both the Gouda cultures and the Parmesan cultures and made this amazing cheese.
Yeah, so our golden is has a slightly different recipe, but it's based on a Gouda recipe. And then we added some Parmesan cultures to it, aged it a little bit different, and our rennet is based on a planet rennet.
Vegetable, yeah.
Vegetable
Yeah,
planet,
yeah.
I'm sorry. So it's very suitable for vegetarians also. It's kind of tricky because our traditional Goudas are made with a veal rennet, and it does set different. So the milk sets different, it coagulates different with those two different rennets. So some of you, maybe when you get it, you will see there's a slightly green rind around it. That is due to the coating. The coating that we are using is a para coating, and it's breathable. But because the color is different, and the coating comes from the Netherlands, and the regulations here and in Europe are a little bit slightly different, so they have to make this a special coating to fit the requirements of the United States. The sad part was that it started drooping through it, so it's kind of drooping through the yellow, and red kind of makes a green bluish teal color.
Yep.
Teal color green. So it is eatable. You will not taste different. It will not taste different. But that's a little bit what happened. So
So this cheese is aged 6 to 9 months, and it's going to taste and look like it's a little bit older. Oops.
This has a beautiful creaminess to it. And
Very
along with the
creamy.
nice buttery flavor, it's starting to get into its natural maple caramel flavor. So it's got a little bit of sweetness. So what I decided to do with this one is that I'm going to use a pear paste, and this is Rutherford and Meyer. They have a wonderful pear paste that is no funny stuff, just pear. And I'm, you know, as much as I love cutting fruit and all that, I'm just not gonna play with that. So I add a little bit of the pear by using the pear paste, which is really natural. But the best part about this is adding an Effie's pecan nut cake to this. And this takes it almost to like a sweet apple pie with all the butter and richness that you guys have.
This is a perfect example how good simple can be. You know, sometimes we add all these other things to it. I tried it with Moon Man, so that's a pale ale, and the golden, and I just let it linger on my tongue. And it's simple, but it has so much flavor together. The combination is good. There's not much you need right now, extras.
Yeah, well, the pear paste, the pecan homemade nut cakes, and I'm pairing that up with an Italian Prosecco. And this has got some nice sweetness to it without being too sugary. It's got a little bit of acidic fruit, which blends perfectly with the cheese, the pear, the pecan, all of those things, and gives you a really nice little balance of flavors. This is, if you're looking for a dessert to sit down and have something completely decadent, this aged Gouda, the golden Gouda with the pear paste and pecan nut cake and Prosecco, it's great after dinner and good for you.
It is, and that's a nice thing too, because you shouldn't limit yourself, because you're all worth it, right? You should try different things, mix and match, because what we like could be different for somebody else again, and step out of your comfort zone. So whatever you have in front of you, mix and match it until you found your magic.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You know, some of the best cheese boards I've ever done is just by rifling through the refrigerator. I was starting off earlier here, and I got some fresh strawberries. And I thought, well, you know, I think strawberries would really work really well. And actually, they were amazing with each of the cheeses, except for the last one. It didn't work as well. But all the others, it was really interesting. And you know, you don't have to go out and spend $1 million in creating a cheese board. You can just use stuff, you know, don't be afraid to experiment with it. I mean, half the stuff that we learn, we do by just playing around with stuff, trying it, grabbing it from the refrigerator and seeing where it goes. That's the fun part about pairing. It's not a science. It's an art of discovery.
It is. And there's hardly any combination that you go wrong or that it tastes really bad. You just try to find combination that you really like. So
looks like it's time to move on to our last and final cheese.
This is our smoked cumin. Go ahead. So this is hickory smoked. So we sell both the regular cumin cheese and then the smoked cumin cheese. And to me, this cheese tastes like an elevated taco, which is really simple, but it's amazing. This one would pair very well with on your charcuterie board with Italian meats.
yes.
I think this is a great cheese to pair with beer. Yeah, why not?
I think so too. And so this is a smoked cumin. What we do is we have so the basic recipe that we make here, the Marieke Gouda signature Gouda recipe. Then all the ingredients just get added right before we pump the cheese curd into the drain table. Then we add the flavors to it, whatever we're making. So in this case, the cumin. Then the cumin Gouda is going in the brine for 60 hours again. Then we wrap it up in plastic and put it in boxes, and then we send it to the smoker. So a lot of people, when you have smoked cheeses, often, most of the time, will be liquid smoke and liquid flavor added to it, and that's not bad. We just like to go the traditional way. In the beginning, because we're making now, so 2006, November 2006 was, so we're doing this almost for 14 years. In the beginning, we had a smaller cheese pad, and when we would bring it to the smoker, I actually would have it in the boxes wrapped up, and I would put it in the back of my in my car. So that's a little bit how we did it in the beginning. But we wrapped it up a little bit. We became more professional. But this smoked Gouda, this is where we still stay true to it. We do everything the traditional way. So we still send it to the same smoker, and he smokes it. It comes back. Then we add our pear coating over it and let it age at least a minimum of 60 days. Our smoke has done very well in competition. It actually ended up one time 5th at the World Cheese Competition. And until a German judge came to me, don't tell anybody, but he came to me and he says, Marieke, it was so good, but I just don't like smoke, so I didn't grade it so high. I'm like, really? Really? Please step away from me right now. Back it off, because I cannot handle comments very well.
So our smoker is right down the road. So we say it's local, probably 10 miles away. Yep. And the other local ingredient that we source is our bacon.
Oh, yeah.
So we do a bacon Gouda using Nolachek bacon. And we recently changed that to a no nitrate bacon. So that's something new and very exciting for us as well.
So
We're still a very small creamery, so if people have suggestions, even after the show, shoot them to us. We always look for new flavors and what's next. So.
you didn't do the bacon with me, huh? I have to say.
Time. Michael, we can do this again.
I would have, but Laurie said no.
All right.
I'm kidding.
All right, you know,
Okay.
I'm going to be looking for a box coming next week with some.
We'll make note of
Mental
that.
note, mental note.
Maybe sneak a bottle of spotted cow in there for me, you know.
You
So-
got it.
You know, when I do pork chops on the grill, cumin is one of my favorites on here. And I was thinking about that you could stuff pork loin with this, and this would be absolutely over the moon in the flavor profile. But its smokiness is really unique. I was trying to come up with a description of it earlier when I was trying to do the pairing. And what I kept coming back to is that this is kind of like a barbecue thing. So I thought, you know what? How about I throw in a little bit of hot honey? And this is Perseverance Society, their hot honey. And it's habanero, and it has a little bit of a kick to it, but kind of like spicy chicken, waffles, and honey.
I bet that's really good.
We're waiting for
Crazy.
Oh, no.
Oh my God, it's just
How did he respond?
spicy barbecue. If you like hot, spicy barbecue, that's what this comes out with. It's absolutely fabulous. It's incredible for a cheese to be able to give this much flavor and intensity. So I paired it with something that basically what I want to do is I want to cool it down. I want to take the little bit of the intensity off of it. I don't want to make it bigger. I want to kind of balance it out a little bit. And so I use the Boston Beer Company, the Sam Adams Summer Ale. And, you know, it's just getting ready to come out now. And it's got a little bit of a lemon to it. And that citrus cuts into this. And think about a little bit of citrus on the, you know, on a cumin and chicken and all that. And really just balances it out very well.
That sounds amazing.
Wow.
Just keep enjoying.
Yeah, I am. Well, you know, this is when I get done at basically around 5 o'clock, which we're sneaking up to. This turns into my happy hour cheese board with myself and my wife. So we get to sit down. Joan and I get to have that there. We have a cocktail or finish up some beers and enjoy a nice little cheese board kind of built up. So, you know, it is a bonus, and, you know, and of course, having, you know, your cheeses is always exceptional.
So we hope everyone enjoyed them. I know it was fun sharing them with you on National Cheese Day.
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys got a chance to come out today. You know, it's always a pleasure to be able to talk with you. I really miss typically when we do an event together and we're teaching, and then we get done around 5 o'clock. We head on off to the bar for a cocktail and enjoy each other's company and get to hang out. So this is as close as that we can get at this point, but I'm hoping that in the sometime near future, we'll be able to, you know, meet up again and do some fun things.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always have a good time with you, and it's just fun to educate people about cheese. There's so much that I did not know before I started. I would go, before I started making cheese, I would go to the store and look for Gouda, just Gouda, and now I go to the store, pick up a piece of cheese, and I think, wow, they don't ask enough, because now I know how much work it's involved, the dedication, the passion. And it's so much fun to see all the people that come here and actually know so much more already than I did at that time. But I had to go and become a cheesemaker before I started even realizing that. And we love having people here, the interaction with, and I would invite everybody, come over here, come cuddle with the calf and snuggle with the cow and try our cheeses. And that's where the best times come, you know, that keeps the shrink away, I think. So good food, good friends, some drinks, you know. So thank you for making this happen, Michael. I cannot thank you enough for all the support, and it's always fun to hang out with you.
All right. Well, again, love you guys, and can't wait till we do another one and do some more fun things. With 19 different varieties, I think we can do this again and again and again. So looking forward to that. I have Lynn Stray from the Point Reyes, and we're going to be doing tomas across the board. This will be recorded, and you can go to my YouTube channel, Michael Landis Cheese, and be able to find more. And of course, this is proudly sponsored by the dairy farmers of Wisconsin, and we greatly appreciate their support here. Laurie, Marieke, really great to see you. Have a great time.
Well, we'll tune in tomorrow, and I just want to say hi to Dawn and her husband. So thank you all, Brian. Thank you all for watching, everybody, and hope to welcome you here. Hugs and kisses from a distance.
Bye.
Bye.